Okay, I ran out of room, so I'm going to use a white sheet of paper. And like I said, this might seem like a lot, but I promise you the more you watch it, the easier it will be for you to write. So let's go ahead and go over seasons. So with seasons, I always draw my earth in the middle. My sun in the middle. And then my 4 earths around my sun. Okay, so I'm going to divide my earth into a northern hemisphere and a southern hemisphere. Northern, southern, northern, southern, northern, southern. Okay, and remember our earth is tilted. So I'm going to draw that, the earth on its axis. Okay. All right, so now once I have that, I need to determine what hemisphere is closer to the sun or is pointing towards the sun, because that hemisphere is going to get more sunlight, and therefore it is more likely that that hemisphere is going to be in summer. So in this case, before we forget, we are rotating counterclockwise here. Okay. So in this case, the hemisphere that is rotating, that is closer to the sun or receiving most of the sun's rays is going to be the northern hemisphere that is here. So in this case, this is summer, right? Because here we're tilting towards the sun, okay? So we're getting the most sun rays here. The hemisphere that is tilting away from the sun would be this one right here. So this one would be winter. Okay, this is tilting away. This is tilting towards. Now, whatever hemisphere, whatever season we are in the north, we are opposite in the south, right? So if we're summer in the north, we are winter in the south. And here the same thing. If we are winter in the north, we are summer in the south. Okay? All right, so now, once we have that, then we can determine fall and spring. Now, since we are rotating counterclockwise here, so I'm just going to pick the northern hemisphere to do first. Okay, it's just easier for me to do it that way. So if I know this is summer, okay, in the north, what comes after summer? Well, I know fall comes after summer. So this would be fall, right? So fall, then winter, then spring. So it would be spring in the north here. Now, let me do the southern hemisphere. So if this is winter, what comes after winter? Well, I know after winter is spring. So then this would be spring, right? Then summer, and then fall. So this one would be fall at the bottom here. Okay, so again, I always start with, in this case, the hemisphere that is tilting closer to the sun. So in this case would be the north. And then this one is tilting away from the sun. So it's receiving less sunlight. So in this case, this is winter. Okay, and then I go from there. All right, so that is seasons. So now we are going to do tides, because tides and seasons are in the same unit. So form a box around that. Okay, so now let's do tides. So there are 2 types of tides. We have spring tides and we have neap tides. So I'm going to start with spring tide first. Okay. So spring tide. So this is when you have the greatest difference between your high and low tides. Okay, they happen twice a month. Okay, 2 times a month. But what I want you to remember here is that it's the greatest difference. And with a spring tide, it starts with S, right? Because you have your sun. This is your sun. I'm going to draw my earth here. This is my earth, which should be a little smaller than that, but sorry. And then you have your moon. And your moon can be either a new moon. A new moon is when the moon is between the sun and the earth. Or you could have a full moon. And that is when, this is a full moon. And that is when it is on the opposite side. Okay, so a spring tide because your sun, earth, and moon are in a straight line. Okay. Now, so let's write straight line. So now let's go ahead and draw where our high tides would be, because remember, wherever your moon is where your high tides are because of the gravitational pull of the moon. So you have a high tide here, you have a high tide here. So these are both high. You have high tides, and then on the opposite you would have your low tides. This would be my low tides. Low, low. Okay. So why is there a greatest difference between the tides? Because you have a combined gravitational pull of the sun and moon together, right? So there's more, you have more of a pull on both sides. So your highs are going to be really high, and then your lows are going to be really low. All right, so now a neap tide. Neap it starts with an N. So N for 90, because we're at 90 degrees here. So a neap tide would be, there is a least difference between high and low tides, right? And it also happens twice a month. But here is what I want you to know, or I want you to remember, it's the least difference between the tides, right? And so in for 90, neap, we're at 90 degrees. So now we have our sun, okay? We have our earth, and then our moon is at 90 degrees. So here I can either have, we call these quarter moons. So this would be, I'm going to shade half of the moon in this case, and I'm going to shade half of the moon over here. So this is called a third quarter moon. And then when the first half of it is shaded, it's the first quarter moon. So this is first quarter. And then that is third quarter. Okay, and then I'm going to draw my little line here to show that it's at 90 degrees, right? So you can have either or. You can either have a first quarter moon or you can have a third quarter moon. But regardless, you're at 90 degrees. Okay, so now here, we said it's the least difference between the tides. So if I were to draw my high and low tides here, so remember, our high tides are always where our moon is. So my tides would be, my high tides would be here. This is high, high, right? My high tides are facing the moon. And then my low would be on the other side. But in this case, there's not that much difference between high and low tides, right? Because the pull is less. Because you have your sun and then your moon at 90 degrees. And so you have some sort of, they're kind of canceling each other out in a way. There's less pull here. All right, so that is the end of tides. All right, so on this side over here, we are going to do the HR diagram. So I'm going to draw here briefly a little small HR diagram. the main thing with an HR diagram is you need to know, it will always be given to you on the test for the most part. But I'm going to go ahead and just draw an example one here. So you have your, so this is absolute magnitude. Remember, absolute magnitude is the actual brightness of a star. Absolute magnitude. Okay. Sometimes a graph will have temperature here at the bottom. Sometimes it'll have spectral class. So I'm going to write spectral class. Okay, and then I'm going to write temperature up here. This is temperature in kelvins. So I'm going to abbreviate that K. Okay, and then in this case, I'm going to put luminosity on this side. Luminosity. Luminosity, okay? And then the sun has a luminosity of 1. Okay, now, for spectral class for the is going to be their letters, right? So I'm going to write them here. You do not have to write these letters down. You can if you want, but it's not something that you're going to have to memorize. And then temperature always increases towards the origin, right? Towards the left. So you're going to have your hottest stars this way. So let's just say this is 30,000. This is 10,000. This is 5,000. And this is 3,000. Let's just say, okay. And then in magnitude, this is -10, -5. This is 0. This is 5, 10. Okay. And then luminosity you're going to have on your graph too. The important thing that I want you to know is, let's go ahead and label our groups. So our white dwarfs are for the most part hot and dim, right? So our white dwarfs are going to be found here. And then main sequence runs along the center. And then you have your red supergiants. And then your red giants. So let's label here. So you would have your hot and dim would be here. So that means that your hot and dim stars are towards the left and towards the bottom. And so your dim and cool stars would be here, okay, towards the bottom and towards the right, because luminosity increases as you go up. And then you have your bright and hot stars up here in the towards the left and towards the top. And then you have your bright and cool stars up here, right? They're bright because they're towards the top, and then they're cool because the temperature is lower on this side of the graph. Okay, and that is our HR diagram. All right, we are almost there. So let's do plate tectonics. I know it's been a while since we have done plate tectonics, but I'm pretty sure you remember. So plate tectonics, all right. So you have 3 different types. You have convergent plates. You have subduction, which is also, you have plates converging, subduction. You have transform, and then you have divergent. So what is a movement of these? So convergent is when you have 2 plates that are colliding, right? They're colliding towards each other. They collide. Subduction would be when you have 2 plates that are also coming together, but one of them is going underneath the other. So one plate gets pushed under the other. Okay. Transform is when you have two plates that are sliding past each other. And then divergent is when you have, there's a divide, right? Between the plates. That should say divide. Divide. So they're moving away from each other. Okay. So an example. So this is an example. So convergent would be, this would form mountains. Subduction, when there's subduction, this would form trenches or volcanoes. Transform boundaries, for the most part, cause earthquakes, like the San Andreas Fault in California. So this would form earthquakes. And then divergent, an example of this would be the African Rift Valley. Or underneath the ocean, the mid-ocean ridge. The mid-ocean ridge. Okay, so that's two examples here for divergent. Rift Valley and mid-ocean ridge. Okay. So that is plate tectonics. Let's do cell organelles. Just a really quick cheat sheet on cell organelles. So these are, so within the cell, you have organelles that have specific functions, right? That help the cell, function or do its job. So let's start off with cell membrane. So remember, cell membrane is found in both animal and plant cells, right? It is semi-permeable, meaning that it controls what goes in and what comes out of the cell, right? It's like our gatekeeper. Cell wall is only found in plant cells, right? And it is more of rigid layer. It is for protection, support, gives the cell its shape. Okay, a nucleus is the control center, controls all the activities within the cell. The cytoplasm is a jelly that holds all the organelles together. The mitochondria is called the mighty mitochondria, right? It's mighty. And it provides energy so the cell can perform its functions. Ribosomes make protein, like your packed lunch, right? Ribosomes make protein. Your chloroplasts, this is where photosynthesis occurs, and this is only in plant cells, right? Because we don't perform photosynthesis. So this is only in plant cells, photosynthesis. Okay, and then last but not least, vacuole is found in both animal and plant cells, right? But in plant cells, it is larger. It is for storage. It stores waste, nutrients, stores water. So it is our storage. Okay, so that is what it is in a nutshell. The cell organelles. All right, and last but not least, we have adaptations. Adaptations, and there's 3 different types of adaptations. So what are adaptations? Adaptations are, they're evolved, they're adaptations that animals or organisms, I should say, have that have evolved to help organisms survive, to help it survive or thrive in its environment, to help it survive, thrive in its environment, So we have 3 adaptations. So we have structural, behavioral, and physiological. Okay, that should be an A, physiological. Okay, so I'm just going to tell you in a nutshell what it is, give you some examples, and then we'll be done. So structural adaptation is a physical feature or body part or characteristic that an animal developed to help it survive. So it could be a body part, like a giraffe's long neck. So an example would be an animal's mouth structure, right? Like a frog has a big wide mouth. So mouth structure to help it catch food. Chameleon that camouflages, so camouflage. And then plants, for example, you have some plants that have needles on cones to protect their seeds. So needles on cones, like a pine cone, for example. Okay, so that is behavioral. That is structural. Behavioral is an action or a behavior. So an example would be a mating ritual, like peacocks do. Mating ritual. Hibernation, migration, like the monarch butterfly. These are actions or behaviors. And then physiological would be an internal process. Right? So an internal process that happens in the body's cells, in the body's organs. So in this case, an example would be sweating or panting. When you're really hot, that's how your body responds to the heat. Fight or flight would be an example. Shedding, when an animal sheds its fur, shedding. Hunger, venom, ink sacs, so anything that the animal produces for defense mechanism too, like a spider producing venom to kill its prey, or octopus releasing ink. So in the internal process, venom and ink. I'm sorry, I know it's kind of small, I ran out of paper, but any internal process that an organism, the cells that happens within the body would be physiological. Okay, like I said, I know it might seem like a lot, but I promise you guys, the more you watch it, and I know you can speed it up. Once you watched it one time, if you want to watch it again, you can just speed it up, so that way it goes faster, and just practice writing this. And not everything that is on this obviously is we have covered way more than what is on here, but this is it again. It's a reference, so it doesn't cover everything that we covered the whole year, but it covers a lot of it. So you still need to know more than this, and with that we'll practice our stations, we'll do practice questions, and so hopefully you will be ready by the time your STAR test comes. So good luck. Thank you guys.